Hello, this is Matthew Chan, host of the extortionletterinfo.com, and welcome to the newest episode of the ELI Factor. And I have obviously been absent for a few episodes, and this is a very special episode on so many levels. Let me see if we can get all the special events that are happening. This is the very first time that Robert and I have actually met in person. So I am in Jupiter, Florida. We're in his home office. So that's the first. So we've been able to shake hands. We've had lunch and all that good stuff. The other first that we're having is, I believe, it's Oscar's and Robert's first face-to-face meeting. You guys have spoken, but you've never had a face-to-face. Is that correct?
Yep. That's correct. Robert, you're as handsome as your avatar.
And another first is that this is the first Eli threesome.
Easy.
For lack of a better word.
You see what happens? You legalize gay marriage in New York, and look what happens.
So we got three guys all jammed into two screens. So those of you who are the Eli, you are just going to be overloaded with all this testosterone. So, Oscar, you made a comment how we're all dressed up for you. I noticed you're really looking especially dapper today, and we're looking especially casual today. What a contrast.
We can tell who's in Florida. We can tell who's in Florida and who's in New York at work. It's very painfully obvious. So for everybody watching, look at these guys. They're one step away from a, Margaritaville trip.
And look at all these diplomas. Look at all those diplomas. What's that all about here? We're feeling a bit insecure.
I earned most of them. Some of them, if you look carefully, they're phony. They're just there to make it look good.
Well, this episode's so potent that it took the two of us to take on you. So we have to overcome our insecurities. We're just ganging. We're teaming up against you, Oscar.
And I'm not so sure we're going to be strong enough.
Yeah, but we can try. So
it could be fun. Well, the only problem with that is that all three of us are on the same side, so there's not really much
which is a good
ganging up. Yeah,
well, I hope that means we're a force to be reckoned with. I'd like to think so, but
I think we've proven that. We've definitely proven that.
Yeah.
Right. And also, Oscar, I forgot, on the last first is that I think this is your first episode of the ELI Factor.
Yes.
We used to do ELI video updates, but we have, not been able to get you on the new show format. So we're running.
I think it's a great idea, and glad to be part of it.
Well, thank you for, being a co-host.
We haven't even been able to get you to be a part of the show as of late. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this guy has logged more episodes than I have. I'm starting to feel like there's a mutiny at hand.
Right.
Well, Oscar, since we haven't heard from you in a while, what's going on in your front that you'd like to talk about and share with our audience?
Well, I mean, a lot certainly has been going on since we all last kind of got together and spoke. I think the first thing that I've seen is kind of been alluded to already, and that is the growth of the forum from what was started as a very narrow focus, which is, what's this Getty Images letter all about? And, we posted the Getty letters. We gave some advice. It developed into a letter program. It developed into different strategies. And then all of a sudden now, where to date, if you look, particularly since Robert's come on board, the site has expanded to be a great source for protection against trolling in general. There's a lot of anti-copyright trolling sites like Die Troll Die, one of my favorites, and many others. Yeah. But I think ours is hard to replicate the amount of content that's on there. And since I am face-to-face with Robert for the first time, I think the best thing that forum does is if somebody sends out an extortion letter, man, we know if they haven't paid their dog grooming bill by an hour goes by, and we know everything about that person, where they went to law school, what kind of work they've done in the past, how many of these letters have gone out. I mean, the power of the community has grown tremendously to give so much information to people. And you could see that too, Matt, just from the different types of inquiries that you're getting wholly unrelated to digital image.
Yes.
And that caused us to put up a legal controversies page, different types of things coming on. The most recent example of it was the Linda Ellis situation with her copyrighted poem. And so I think that's the biggest thing that's really changed since we really discussed the forum in general is the growth of the ELI site.
Well, and I'd like to point out that we continue to evolve as a group, and I'm very privileged to work with people who are willing to change. And so, we started out doing video, and now we have a show. I mean, we're up to our 5th or 6th episode with this recording. So before too long, we're going to have a season's worth of episodes.
There you go.
So, yeah, it is definitely very interesting. And, of course, Robert, I give great credit to Robert for taking on the reins. I've been extremely busy with a whole bunch of different stuff, and he's basically about damn near booted me out. I'm almost being rendered useless pretty soon, so I guess that's a good thing.
You're a long way from that, but
yeah.
I mean, Robert, do you agree? I mean, it's really such a source for anti-trolling information. Have you seen any other sites that have this much content, in that area?
No, I haven't. And I visit, Die Troll Die, and some of the other copyright, and they're, they all kind of stick to their niche market, their niche market, as it were. Whether it's peer to peer or whereas Eli, we'll go in any direction. And we welcome any newcomers. And it's funny that you had mentioned Linda Ellis and how these new things come about. We just had a phone call. We had
before this call
20 minutes ago on a completely different thing, and apparently these people want us to get involved. I don't know if we will or not, but it's just it's going to be one more facet if we do.
Actually, I did launch it just right before the show started.
He's actually ahead.
So the other thing too, I think that differentiates the site is if you look at those other sites, they'll maybe have. Someone will do a post. Whoever's running the site will do a blog post or a little paragraph or two on whatever their topic is, and then there's one or two comments, and there's no follow-up.
Yeah.
With us, you get on there, and now all kinds of other people are chiming in regularly, some regular contributors, and then some people who are just specific to that situation, and that's how the content has been building. I mean, if you want to give a shout out to some of those folks, like SG, as we know from our site, and Lucia, are fountains of humor, of course, SG especially, but information. Great Troy, these guys who keep coming back and giving a lot of in-depth comment, and even though we do get laughs once in a while from it, most of the time, 99% of it is serious discussion about the legality of it, how to combat it, what it means, what the issues are with it. And a lot of these issues are closed down really quickly because of the research and the time that folks put in. And then in their responses, addressing these issues directly on. So I think that's a great thing for Eli to continue to look for those types of issues as they pop up. I don't know what this new issue is that you had, Matt, but I think shortly we should probably put a forum up, for example, on this pornography trolling that's really taken over, the copyright trolling discussions.
Well, actually, we do have a forum to it. It's called the P2P and BitTorrent Lawsuits Forum. And so, we're expecting that there's going to be more and more activity. Actually, I think you guys have been posting new articles and things like that.
Yeah, I try to pop into all the forums and keep up to date. And if I see something that's worthy of, throwing out there, I definitely post in there. And Mike Myers, obviously been on our radar, lately, for more than just the P2P and the porn thing, but, for images now.
Okay. Well,
he's moved over. He's moved over into the image department.
Well, Oscar, since we're already on that particular topic, and I've got a whole menu things that we're going to talk about. Why don't we just start right there with Mike Meyer? What do you know of him? What do you know about the situation, his background? And you certainly had a very interesting comment, which was very unexpected. We sort of got a chuckle out of it. It's Oscar said this in public. So What are your comments?
Now you're going to have to remind me. What are you talking about?
I believe you said he makes my skin crawl or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So what do you know about this?
I will definitely tell that in person. Well, what bothers me about him, which is kind of different than any of the other trollers out there, is that really this thing is aimed at people who may have had no idea about what was being done, and then it's a public shaming, you know.
But he's not the only person doing this, though. There's
definitely not. It's a whole tactic. It's a whole tactic of the porn industry, and what they're trying to do is they pick embarrassing titles to try to shame people into just paying before someone realizes they're being sued over downloading one of these titles, and it's complete shamelessness. They're contacting people at their place of business. They're contacting people at their home, and you know, with wireless routers, with multiple dwelling, having access to these routers, there really is no way to know which computer and which person was downloading a particular item from the internet just because you know the ISP address. And you know, federal courts have finally jumped up on that and have been denying subpoenas. And we've been getting a lot of contact from folks who want us to, you know, fight these subpoenas that they're getting from their carriers to reveal their names and addresses, because the cable providers won't fight that for you. All they'll do is notify you that someone's looking to get this information and advise you that if you don't move to quash the subpoena, you're going to be, you know, out of luck. So a guy like him, I think it just goes to a whole different level of sleaziness to try and do that, to shame people, you know, into, you know, paying up even if they didn't do anything wrong.
Now, are you actively taking those type of clients? Have you been dealing with this at all?
What we've been doing is similar to kind of a letter program thing, where we won't. We can't act as their lawyer because it would just be too expensive.
Right.
Or it's out of a jurisdiction where we're admitted. So we'd have to get local counsel to admit us. So there's another expense. So what we've been doing is telling people, you know, you can do this on your own. Here's an outline of what it should look like. And, you know, fill in the facts that relate to your situation and file it. And we had a guy in Florida who called us and was very thankful. We charged him a very nominal fee to give him that kind of guideline and that outline, and he did it himself.
Well, you should email me the specifications, and if there's a price associated, I think we should make it available to our community members. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we could do it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people get nervous about kind of representing themselves in federal court.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than just responding to Getty in a letter.
I understand.
So a lot of folks, you know, end up settling, even though they've given us, you know, even though they've gotten this motion. And in the last instance, they're like, let me just call and see how much they want, because I don't know if I have to appear in court. Is that going to be embarrassing? So, I mean, we'd have to explain in a little bit of detail how it would work, and then we could probably set up a similar program.
Okay.
I have a quick question in regards to the way they're doing this. My understanding is that they will file with the court and say they have 100 does that they want to file against. So they get they get their names, obviously, their names, addresses, and whatnot. Aren't the judges now reconsidering that and saying, we've had enough of this filing with all, you know, a bunch of does, because they never really follow through with the lawsuits. They're only filing it to get their names and addresses so they can then send the letter and scare them into paying, because they really don't have the intent of following through with that lawsuit. So I was kind of under the impression that that's what they were going to do, and say, if you want to file, then you need to file these individually and not kind of skirt around, you know, the way the courtroom is supposed to work. Am I correct?
Right, that's right. And especially because there's no such thing as a class action for defendants. You can bring a lawsuit in federal court as a class action for plaintiffs and say all of these plaintiffs were wronged in the same fashion. But there's no way to bring a class action for defendants and say all of these defendants have wronged us in the same fashion. Normally, when you join defendants, it's because they caused the exact same one harm. So federal courts, one or two federal courts around the country, I think we blogged about it and we put it up on the forum, have said, don't use the federal court as your collection agency. It's a forum for litigation.
Yeah.
And so if you want to sue these individuals, but there's no connection here other than all of them at various times, and some of them from different states or different counties or different federal districts, and you're joining them here in this one action. So the federal courts are very crowded, they're very overcrowded. Some of them have caught on, but I got to tell you, Robert, some of them are still handling the cases. Not all of them are throwing them out.
Right.
It's very scattershot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very scattershot. So I wouldn't count on the court necessarily to do it, because a lot of times it's just easier for the court. They're not a party. They're not an adversary.
Right.
You filed a complaint. You want X, Y, and Z done. You filed the paperwork properly. They're going to just let you do it. They're not going to prejudge your claim for you. So all of those cases where the judges have objected to it, it's because someone's moved to quash a subpoena and brought it to their attention. The court never on its own said, I don't like this. The other angle that I would try to, Matt and I have spoken about this privately or maybe even on the forum, I don't recall, is I think you can make a very good argument that because pornography is generally obscenity, that it's not copyrightable.
Yeah, that's been a recent argument.
I read that. I read that not too long ago.
The porn industry does not like that at all. They hate that.
Right, but I think a very good argument to say that it is for works of art, and that especially, and by the way, this is where these guys hurt themselves when they pick particularly their trashiest ones to embarrass people. It's going to be hard. I don't even mention the titles, but it's going to be hard to walk into federal court and say, hey, this is my work of art, gangbang anal cheerleaders or something. So, I think if you have more of a feature type film, like a Caligula, there's been pornography that's art, right? But for these kind of like movies that are made for $10,000, I think you could argue that just like I can't come in and say, hey, I had a cocaine deal and this guy didn't pay me, I want to sue him in federal court because he owes me money for cocaine. The federal court would say you can't come to court and enforce an illegal contract. So I think you can't come into court and enforce somebody stealing obscenity.
Right.
So that if you could prove that it's actually it would be obscene in that district, they're not entitled to the protection of the federal court.
Okay. Well, Oscar, I'm sure we're going to talk about this on future episodes. I mean, this topic is clearly not going away. So I'm sure our audience appreciates you chiming in on this little segment. Now, since we only have a few minutes left in this particular segment, I'm going to hit on a real easy one. And Robert and I were talking about it. It's the Getty Images sales tax issue. And I have not to this day been able to find a pattern. I know Robert's made an attempt to find a pattern and find out their physical locations, but it's been my observation that the most recent Getty letters, for no arbitrary reason, the sales taxes have been left off. Again, it's sort of like they never had it, then they came on, they started adding sales tax, and now it seems to be gone. But I don't want to go on record saying definitively that's so. That's just my anecdotal observation. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's something they floated out there to try to get a little extra money on these claims, and we picked up on it. I don't know whether it was in response to all the information we gave about how it would be completely improper to charge sales tax on a claim, but it also, if they looked at our site, as they often do, if they saw our post that discussed how finally Getty may be exposing themselves to class action litigation, I think they probably made a determination, let's pull back on this. When we started collecting and looking for cases with sales tax after it started to come up, we found 4 of them in recent filings that had come to us, and all of them were from Texas. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether it was something that they tried to do just in Texas, but that was the only pattern that I noticed. Did you guys pick up anything else other than that, or?
No, I've just seen a lot of the recent ones. They just don't have them. And there was a little while back, from 2011, I saw a whole slew of them. So and I could never nail it down to any particular geography, any particular state. There was no rhyme or reason to it. Some of them were charging sales tax where they had no physical presence that I know of.
Right.
Let me qualify that. That I know of.
Yeah, I know they do have an office in Texas. I did find that much out, and they are registered to collect sales tax in Texas.
But they had sales tax on other states besides Texas that had no physical presence that we could find. So I don't know. All I know is it seems to have disappeared again.
It's not just that, though. It's just that folks should remember that copyright is a federal claim, and so state sales tax rules would not apply to copyright claims in general anyway. Right. But certainly any claim, like for example, when you get into a car accident, if someone causes $10,000 worth of damage to you, either in property or personal injury, you don't get sales tax added onto it because it's not, claims are not seen generally as income. So I think they will try to argue that this is for some retroactive licensing fee, but that would be completely inappropriate because the retroactive licensing fee argument is how they gauge what the damage is, not what they're actually collecting. I mean, that's what people have to remember. They're not actually saying pay us a retroactive licensing fee. They're saying you owe us this money because had you licensed it with us, this is what we would have received. And then it would be particularly interesting to see if they forwarded the sales tax to the taxing authorities for people who settled claims that did include sales tax. What was done with that sales tax money?
How do you verify that? I thought about that. It would be interesting if we found that they kept the sales tax money but never submitted it. But I mean, it's hard to say.
Someone in Texas, where we know it occurred, or any state where we know it occurred, a citizen of that state could foil the state for the records of payment of sales tax by Getty. And that might be an interesting way to see how much they paid, in what form they paid it, and things of that nature.
I sense a project coming up.
Okay, good. Well, we're sort of out of time on this episode, so I want to thank our audience members for tuning in on this very special episode of the ELI Factor, where we've got Robert, me, and Oscar here for the very first time, and us meeting. So, but stay tuned. On our next episode, we are going to do another threesome, and we're going to plunge in and do more, cover more topics. But on behalf of myself and Robert and Oscar, thank you for joining us. See you in our next episode.
Thanks, guys.